push for help. There's a spider. Oh, yeah, you don't want to push for help. Yeah, the hospital's got to do a better job cleaning that up. Okay, what's happening here? So rodeo, they're pulling her. Oh no, these things are terrible. Okay, I don't like this at all. Oh, the centrifugal force of your brain is just so bad. It's just really unnecessary. It's just gonna feel horribly dizzy. The endolymph fluid that's within your semicircular canals and the little crystals that are in there that help you gauge position and have your equilibrium going, they keep going through inertia. And as a result, you start spinning and feeling like you're continuing to move. So, how don't I be her?
I just woke up and I'm about to eat 3 cloves of garlic for like a natural antibiotic.
Okay. Dude, why can't you just stop at saying I like 3 cloves of garlic? And I think overall it's probably a healthy thing to do. Because I'll be with it.
Then I have a few spoonfuls of probiotic coconut yogurt. I normally add a little bit of cinnamon for good luck.
Good luck. At least that one's not medically inaccurate. Fine. Add cinnamon to your yogurt for good luck. I'm with that clean.
This is a powder to help with your gut.
No, it's not.
Very healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Repeat that again.
That's right. Circle again.
Oh. Detox the body. We all need to detox the body. How have we been alive for generations without detoxing our bodies, man? It's incredible. It's incredible what these supplement stores sell to people. And my curiosity and questions to individuals like this is when you walk into a supplement store and you see 100,000 items that have ridiculous claims about cleaner skin and this and that, and yet all those problems still exist in the people going to the store. Aren't you skeptical? If I prescribe a patient who has acid reflux, a prescription drug, and it never helped them, you don't think I'll ask some questions? Something bad's about to happen. I feel it. Medically, I'm concerned. Oh, nope. He just went straight for the blood drop. See, that's not going to feel great on a single. 7 seconds to detect stroke, Alzheimer's, brain palsy. I love it because none of these things are related to one another at all, except they happen up here. Overlap, back here. If the little finger can move freely, the brain is helping. My pinky finger's moving, but after reading that and listening to that, my brain is no longer. There's going to be a mean skin burn.
You know what's wrong. You drink your morning tea. Too much salt. Too much caffeine.
You just control the amount of caffeine you take in, or the amount of salt you take in. Why do you need to taste it? The universe telling me signs I don't want to hear.
Trending all over my For You page lately has been eat papaya seeds to get rid of parasites. I did this parasite cleanse and I've been pooping worms. I'm a holistic nutritionist, but I haven't done a parasite cleanse in ages. I'm thinking, is this what the universe is trying to tell me?
No, it's what you were searching, so the universe just gave it back to you, because that's how the algorithm works. It's not predictive.
80% of people have parasites.
80% of people have parasites. Show me your statistic before you make wild statistics. 3 steps to get glowing skin without touching your face. Sleep well, hydrate well, eat niacin-rich foods like beets. Lie up and next to your ears when you get a massage. They stimulate the nerve endings that lead to the release of endorphins. Cool. So, yeah, if you get a massage, you'll feel good. And I don't know if that's considered medical advice or not.
To avoid straining your eyes when you should have a 20-20-20.
I love the 20. Every 20 minutes, for 20 seconds, for 20 days.
But every 20 minutes you walk, then you look at something that's 20 feet away from much enemy for 20 minutes.
No, actually watching animated to make it figures out is not good for you.
Best advice for women in business. Get your ass up and work.
What's happening right now with her eyes, I feel is manufactured because there's some kind of split screen effect on her face that's copying with what one side of her face is doing. As an experienced medical professional, I see the arteries going within her eyes and they're following the same trajectories on both sides, and I don't find that. By the way, I'm not paying attention to what she's saying. right? And that's it. He'll be uncover the beeping things at the hospital and all the patients start sleeping. Okay, you know what? I shouldn't do this. But alarm fatigue is real. If you have alarms going off for no reason and you start ignoring them because you know they're for no reason, that's really dangerous because then you can tune out alarms that actually matter. So please, if you feel an alarm is going off constantly and you're not responding to it because you know you don't need to, turn it off so that when you do hear an alarm, you react. And by the way, there should be quiet times at night so patients can rest because they need to rest and recover. We don't fix patients, patients fix themselves. Please help me. Wow. My eyes are so bad. It looks like you just have a subconjunctival hemorrhage. I mean, I don't know for sure. Well, if they burn, that means you probably got something like that. But in most cases, the biggest thing about a subconjunctival hemorrhage is patients worrying that something bad is going on. But in reality, they come in, we rule out other issues like a scratched cornea, brain lesions, they do a neurologic exam, reflexes, and just make sure they're okay, and send them home and say you'll be fine. I'm not gonna lie, aesthetically this product looks cool. I have a feeling, I kind of wish I bought it for this video, it's probably garbage. Here's my concern. I think your skin gets caught in between the wheels. If anyone's used this product, leave me a comment down below. I'm worried about your skin getting caught. But if it's good, let me know.
Oh, cool. This cut is insane. Shout out to my barber.
My assumption is there's some kind of allergic reaction happening. There's edema, and then it's pitting edema, so she pressed in that area while it's going back. That's a hyperextended needle. Oh, so she had an artificial eye? Wait, what was that? I have no idea. I don't know. Look at her hair. Okay, this looks traumatic in nature, or it could be congenital. Yeah, I think I've seen this guy's finger before. See, what I think is happening here is injury to the middle layer of the skin of the proteins that connect the epidermis to the dermis, and as a result, there's edema and fluid in there. So that's just his finger moving. But then the nail should be moving too, so I don't know what's going on. Oh, what is this? This looks like a burn of some kind. There's an onychomycosis, so there's some fungal infection of the nails there. The feet are quite red, so there could be potentially signs of infection, whether fungal or bacterial. I mean, blisters caused usually by friction or heat or something happening damage-wise. There are also autoimmune conditions like bullous pemphigoid, but usually those are all across the skin, not just in a single location like this. Maybe like a heating time is left on the skin and burn the skin, because that's what it looks like. Wow, that's a big blister, lots of edema. But also it looks like that person has swollen ankles as well, so having some kind of dependent edema, perhaps congestive heart failure leading to lower extremity edema. Some foot scraping? Yeah. Some foot scraping transported to a buttery grip.
No! God, please, no! No!
You've heard about this old wives' tale about a potato in the sock overnight curing the flake.
I've seen this on 5 Minute Crafts and it made me very angry. It will clean your blood!
She had pretty bad fever, so she had the chills.
Okay, just so you're aware, the reason you have fever, the reason you have chills, is because your body gives you chills, so you shiver, you raise your temperature of your body. Therefore, your immune cells actually start functioning at a better capacity. Viral cells have a tougher time replicating within your body. You don't know what roles potatoes have in this.
And in the morning, I just take them out. And I'm always amazed at what it looks like. Look at that. Look how black.
You know what's also black if you leave it out? Avocado. And you don't even need a virus or a parasite for that.
It's just like the potato has sucked all the disease out.
Oh my god, the potato sucked all the disease. Or it oxidized, just like an apple does, or an avocado.
But I like to leave the other piece of potato cut up on the counter so I can compare it.
Yeah, you know what the difference is? Your poor child's sweating all over the potato, so it's oxidizing faster. You know?
So put the puffiness under your eyes, the chances are your kidneys are not flushing out toxins.
Man, what if it's just your face shape? What if it's that you didn't get a good night's sleep?
Do what is dehydrated. Now, if you see an Ayurvedic practitioner or even a Chinese medicine expert, they can look at your face or your tongue and tell you what's wrong with your body.
No, they can't. Like, what if they have cancer and you're telling them it's because their kidneys are dehydrated? Yes, you could be dehydrated. When you're dehydrated, your kidneys suffer and they don't filter your blood as well. So, like, all that stuff could be true. But the fact that you're so sure is where you're wrong.
Your lungs are the lower part of your face,
No, your lungs are here in your chest cavity.
and your stomach is the upper cheek.
No, and your stomach is also in your abdomen. It has nothing to do with your teeth.
And your temple area right here, it's connected directly to your liver.
No, it's not. It's that besides the blood that goes in your liver during points of circulation that also ends up here. There is no connection between your cheeks or your face or your temple and your liver. Oh, or if there is some kind of jaundice condition and the area is turning yellow. But whatever this person is saying is horribly inaccurate, needs to be taken down. Mouth taping.
Let's talk about why you should be keeping your mouth shut every single night before you go to bed.
I thought she was going to say so you don't bother your partner or some joke thing.
Breathing through your mouth contributes to a host of issues, including bad breath, gum disease, cavities, brain fog, and a weakened immune
Okay,
system.
some of these things, yes, bad breath, gum disease, cavities, true. Brain fog, weakened immune system. Now we're starting to get a little into the quack space because that's not exactly true. Maybe you can have a higher propensity for getting sick, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have a weakened immune system. Brain fog also very subjective thing.
And most people, myself included, breathe through their mouths at night. Keeping your mouth shut before bed completely prevents that.
Well, first of all, it doesn't completely prevent it because that's a very small piece of tape. Number two, before doing this, you really should talk with your doctor to see why it is that you're breathing through your mouth at night. Some people have obstructions in their nasal passageways that could require treatment, whether medical or surgical. Both are options. Some people have allergies, and a simple nasal steroid spray can help and do wonders for them. Some people can just take over-the-counter oral medications. Others might realize that they have a polyp obstructing their sinuses, and as a result, they can have great results with surgical options. Or you could have really bad obstructive sleep apnea, and you benefit a lot from a CPAP device. So, like, this is where, like, a TikTok, maybe some good advice turns into drastically over-hyped advice that can become future.
But it is so easy. It doesn't come off overnight, and you're gonna have the best sleep ever.
I hate when people make these, like, you'll have the best sleep ever. I can't say that to my patients who are suffering with insomnia. Like, that's the difference between a random person making a video on TikTok versus a doctor giving advice. I have patients who are truly suffering and having really bad times in their lives because they can't sleep. And if I promise them great sleep and the best sleep ever with this piece of tape, and they don't get it, that trust is completely broken. But in general, breathing through the nose is best. So, like, whatever strategy you have to do that after speaking with your doctor, I'm all for trying different things. And if you do breathe through your mouth, there are mouth sprays that you can use to keep your mouth a little bit more lubricated, like dry mouth. Check out this Draw My Life video of me coming to America. I know you'll enjoy it again. As always, stay happy and healthy. Oh, it's like mattress dominoes at a dorm where people are really going to get injured. Honestly, if I were in urgent care, my eyes would be like, the child can't help. That is physics. Oh, no way, he got clipped. Oh my God, spring loaded and multiple hits. It was like getting jabbed by Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. Have you seen that video of Floyd Mayweather jabbing the boxing bag that snapped? Listen. Just a little bit of Morton's toe. Oh wow, that's a lot happening. Morton's toe is a form of brachymetatarsia, and it's also different than Morton's neuroma, which also happens in the feet. But ironically, they were named after two different Mortons. And it obviously predisposes you to all sorts of foot pain, more like
Imagine upgrading your apartment with smart gadgets that make life easier and more efficient. These Amazon...
I don't contract with you. I gave you what you asked for, and I asked you. being kept, preserved, and monitored. And that brain is what's controlling the Amanda character within the cartoon. But now that her brain has been separated, her body is without a consciousness. And to me, that sounds like a perfect vessel for a demonic possession. Could this be what Hamlin's ultimately trying to do? Lure children for experimentation by using the cartoon, and once their brains have been removed from their bodies, have a demon possess that body. That's why the demon looks a little bit like Amanda, and why Amanda is able to convince the demon to spare someone. It's her body she's begging to stop. I think with the context we're given, this is pretty logical, and the same logic could be applied with Wooly, since we have a Wooly character, and now a demon monster that looks like Wooly. But this leads us to our next major question: who is Wooly? We know that Rebecca has been turned into Amanda, but we have no idea on the true identity of Wooly. It is notable that Wooly tends to try to keep the episodes on track and with a consistent message, and is also worried about doing things without supervision. After the first game, a lot of people, myself included, started to think that Wooly might be Sam, Rebecca's father. But after playing the second game, I'm actually thinking something different now. Throughout this game, Amanda very clearly hates Wooly, doesn't want anything to do with him, laughs about the fact that he's gone, and during the last tape, mentions that she used to trust him. During the treasure tape on an off-beaten path, you can find clothes that resemble what Sam was wearing in one of his interviews. And when they're both shocked, Wooly is the one to suggest to bury it away and forget about it. But something I think really telling happens that leads me to this theory more than anything. And that happens in the broken tape about fixing things. In it, the possum shows up again and attacks Wooly, trying to take his eye out. No matter what you do, save him or let him get it replaced with a googly eye, Wooly takes a moment and does this. This body language and wording to me feels very specific, almost as if he knows that they are inside the cartoon and implying that someone should be able to take him back out. Almost as if he's a diver deep in the ocean calling back to the submarine to pull him up, which to me suggests he doesn't even know who he's talking to. He's talking to Riley, the player character, but it sounds like he's talking to someone who would be able to control who's put into the cartoon. I think he thinks he's still in Hamlet. Pair this with the secret tape in the files of the first game with Wooly just waiting around for something to happen, and the damning fact that only some of the tapes of the second game have the Hamlin logo. Which tapes? The very same ones that Wooly is a part of. I think Wooly is an employee at Hamlin who was supposed to keep Amanda in check and study her, but after a while they left him there to rot, just like Rebecca. He doesn't know that. In his perspective, the experiment is still ongoing, he's just taking a longer time. And maybe in the third game, he'll be how we get dirt on Hamlin and how to defeat them, because we'll convince him that they've left him behind. But for now, he thinks this is all part of the plan. And to be fair, this game does present another possibility. Like I mentioned, there were people investigating Hamlin and the TV show itself. We get to see their meetings in one of the tapes, and in the last tape, they seem to be having a heated argument about what to do next. This is because one of their members has disappeared, and the suggestion to dive in and help is made. Could this mean that one of them entered the cartoon and became Wooly? Now, that's possible, but I think it's much less likely. For one, we have no idea how they would have entered the cartoon without Hamlin's help. And why would Hamlin help them with that? And two, and almost more importantly, when we say the name Rebecca throughout the game, Amanda does recognize it. But we can say all four of the names of the people we know from this group at Wooly several times, and not once does he recognize them. I think it's because we haven't learned Wooly's real name yet, and we might in the next game. Finally, and frankly this is one of the easier theories, who is this little freak possum? I love him, I think he's funny, he's a freak and a weirdo. But the question begs, who is he? If Amanda and Wooly are real people, what about the possum? Well, frankly, I think the game is pretty direct in the implication of who this possum is. After all, we know that Joanne's brother Jordan disappeared while watching the show. And we know that when Joanne's voice is played in front of the TV while the possum is there, the possum recognizes it, rushes to break through the screen, and tries to say the name Joanne. Kate died in a car accident, so to me, this possum's pretty much gotta be Jordan in some way. Now, the question is, did Hamlin physically force him into the cartoon? Or does this cartoon, absorb people? That's not clear, and we're not sure. But regardless, Jordan, in some way, became this possum, I think. So where are we getting getting some of this information from the second game. Specifically, what secrets have we not touched on or have I mentioned but not mentioned the location? Well, I think a great place to start with the secret tapes needed for the main ending. And frankly, the first one I was able to get and the most impactful to me was the orange tape. In it, we get several meetings of Kate and her friends, Caroline, David, and Peter, who are looking into this show to find out what's actually going on. They mention a lot of the things that we already know, but give us additional context. That yes, there's demon names in this process, but specifically Belial, Mara, and Iblis are things that they found, and there are sigils hidden in almost every episode. We also get some time frames here. The fact that the show was created 15 years ago at the point of recording these tapes. Peter also suggests that Hamlin, the production company, might be traceable to a cult that goes all the way back to the Middle Ages. We also find out that as they were looking into it, one of them disappeared, David, and they start talking about how they'll have to tread carefully from here on out. The teal tape shows us what happened to Sam. We know from the first game that he disappeared, but the second game gives us more context as to what happened. He was essentially kidnapped by Hamlin and forced to, by recording, reassure Rebecca that she can trust the company, all doing so under a contract he signed. Realistically, in terms of dialogue, the green tape doesn't have anything super useful. However, what it shows is what's important, as somebody snuck into the Hamlin facility and recorded Amanda on the operation table with some weird device around her head, and overhears a conversation about monitoring her brain waves, but the recorder is chased off before anything more gets discovered. Finally, the red tape is probably the earliest one in this entire franchise, because it shows us Sam Colton doing a story time at the library. Now, the local TV show already exists as Kate advertises it, but after the story time in the background of the video, we see a man in a suit approach Sam about a wonderful opportunity, which seems to be the first point of contact between Hamlin Entertainment and Sam Colton, and by proxy, Rebecca. But honestly, a majority of the secrets in this game lie in the fill-in questions throughout the tapes, where Amanda or Willie will ask you a question directly and you can type in an answer. Now, this is one of those moments I need to remind you that I will not have every secret in this game in this video, because frankly, I don't think we'll have every secret in this game for a very long time. There's a lot of these fill-in questions, and the options are almost limitless since you can just type stuff in. But I've played for 2 streams worth and a bunch offline. I think I'm at 15 hours total on this game. So far, here's all the secrets that I've found that I've cataloged while playing.
You can visit anyone in the world. Who would you go see? No! Why would you do this to me? What? Do you really think you can do that? I wish I could still place my heart. Yeah, if you could find him, what are you afraid of? We shouldn't talk about me. You really think I'm scary? Now I'll never get to sleep. Why would you bring him up? Oh yeah, he's really scary. What is your favorite thing to eat for breakfast? Sorry, but we're all out of that. Aw, is that because we made one together before? What do you do when you're feeling bad? I wish I could. I feel like there's nothing left to me. Oh, that didn't help at all. Great digestion.
What's your favorite kind of story? Those kind of stories are too scary for me. Wow. I wish I had an answer. I like this kind of story.
Aw, is that because we made one together before? What do you do when you're feeling bad? I wish I could.
I feel like there's nothing left in me. Nope, that didn't help at all. Great suggestion.
What's your favorite kind of story? Those kind of stories are too scary for me. Wow. I wish I hadn't asked. I like those kind of stories too.
Who's someone you trust? Yeah, he was so trusting too. And that can be a mistake. I trusted her too. I wish I could still talk to her. Go away! Really? You know, I think I actually believe you. That's a terrible thing to say to me!
And that's Amanda the Adventurer too. There's definitely a lot more in this game that I can't wait to find or wait to see other people find. And again, even if you watch this entire video, as long as you don't care about story spoilers, there's such a good reason for you to go and still play this game fully. There's a whole bunch of puzzles I did not talk about on purpose to not spoil the gameplay of it, and there's plenty of secrets still yet to find. And it's genuinely a really good game. And also, you should go and play the first one if you haven't played that either. In the meantime, don't forget that the plushies are still live right now. Go get one. They're adorable. They have two sides. Who doesn't love this maze? Last week on the second channel, I covered the leaked origin story for the Pokemon universe and the negative repercussions that came from the leak, and you can go and check out that video right here. If you want your fan art featured on the channel, make sure to share it with #CoStar. Huge thank you to the best channel members, the Dough Risers, and until
I know who the main villain is for Poppy Playtime Chapter. I know who the main villain is for Poppy Playtime Chapter 4. No, it's not the prototype. No, it's not Poppy. And no, it's not this new sheep critter from the teaser. Although while that last one may not be the big bad, it turns out this actually is in fact the key to figuring out who it is. Hello Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the black sheep of the gaming world. While everyone else is being cute, doing Let's Plays, we're over here chowing down on the stories of orphans shoved into plushies. But we're not alone, because we just got ourselves a brand new teaser for Poppy Playtime Chapter 4. A Dog Day plushie walks through a room until out of the shadows, a black clump pounces and begins chowing down. We look up and we see a room full of toy corpses stacked high. See, Poppy and I really are a match made in heaven. Or hell, I suppose. Over the next 2 weeks, we learn a little bit more about this character. Their name is Barbarchels, and apparently their design was inspired by the YouTuber Sheep Rampage and their fan-made smiling critter. Good for you, man. Nice to see some theorists in this community getting recognition. Of course, theorists across the internet began theorizing about this sheep and what they would do as the primary villain of this chapter. Only for the marketing communications manager of Mod Games, Tyler, to make this comment on the Poppy Playtime Discord. Lamau, you'll really think the sheep is the main villain. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm thankful for having the record set straight. It's more than we get from some franchises, but did you really have to mock us with it? After this, we were shown that Barbar wasn't alone, but part of a new group of toys, the Nightmare Critters. We've got characters like Raby Baby, Icky Licky, and Tui. Oh, come on, you can't tell me they didn't know what they were doing with these names. Regardless, this was a pretty clear sign that critters like Barbar weren't going to be the primary villains of this chapter. But then, who is? Of course, we could just wait for the next teaser to find out. But you know what? I don't actually think we need to. Because even though Barbar may not be the main villain, the decision to use them in the teaser instead of any of the other new critters was intentional. Their inclusion is incredibly important because it actually helps us figure out who the real villain is going to be. So let's start digging through piles of decaying toys, world theorists, to see if we can find scraps of lore to chew on. For starters, how is Baba the key to figuring this out? Well, for that we've actually got to go back in time a little bit and talk about another recent development, Playtime World, a series of videos released on Bob Entertainment's YouTube channel called The Story So Far. Each video involves Harley Sawyer. I'm Paul the Doctor. He was the guy that helped start the Bigger Boys initiative. He is narrating us through the events of chapters 1, 2, and 3. Seems pretty straightforward. However, when the first video came out, fans were quick to notice that something wasn't quite right. At 1 minute and 28 seconds, there were hidden frames that showed the letters IV, A, R, and G, followed by the phrase, let the game begin. IV is the Roman numeral for 4, and the other letters, well, I'm sure you can figure that part out. This was the start of the Chapter 4 ARG, which was very exciting. Chapter 3's ARG revealed a ton of information about poppy gas, how they made the experiments, and the human identity of Catnap. So people began scrambling to find whatever answers they could. Big shout out to everyone over on the Poppy Playtime Discord, by the way. While I've been trying to solve all these clues on my own, these guys were incredibly quick on the draw, solving puzzles just hours after release, including Sheep Rampage, the YouTuber I mentioned earlier. So if you want to stay on top of the latest Poppy ARG stuff in the future, I highly recommend you go and check them out. There's a link in the description. Hi, Future Tom here. So I'm literally about to head out for a vacation, but I've just seen that there's potentially more to this ARG. Members of Bob's Partners in Crime program have been receiving letters with clues. At the time I'm recording, there's only been a handful of clues. They're still missing a couple of key components, but by the time this episode comes out, the rest may have been revealed. So definitely go and check out the Poppy Playtime Discord if you want to see where that ended up. I don't believe it's going to change much about this episode, but I just wanted to let you know so you're not wondering why I'm not talking about those codes specifically. Okay, back to the ARG. Fortunately, none of us had to wait too long for our first one. Right at the end of that first video, we got this text. At first, it looks like our old friend Base 64. So I tried it and ended up with this. Yeah, not exactly what we're looking for. But did you know that there are actually more base ciphers than just 64? Base 64 gets its name from containing 64 unique characters, a capitalized and non-capitalized alphabet, numbers 1 to 9, and a couple of symbols. However, there are a bunch of base ones that use a different amount of unique characters that we can try. We actually used base 5 back in our That's Not My Neighbor video, but there's also stuff like base 16, base 36, base 62, base 85, and one that came in handy today, base 32. This one uses a single alphabet and the numbers 1 to 7. So if you see a code that looks like it should be base 64, but it lacks any symbols or the numbers 8, 9, or 0, try base 32, the more you know. Anyway, by converting the codes, you get this. Unfelted feet and bated breath. Sleep draws in. Felted feet seemed like it would be talking about the toy, and with the second line being about sleep, I immediately thought of Catnap, with their red smoke sending orphans to sleep. But why would we be reminded of him in the build-up of Chapter 4? Catnap was our last villain, and he's kind of suffering from a minor case of deadness. This is where I think Barbar's prominence in the teaser comes into play. Sheep have been associated with sleep for centuries. I'm sure you've all heard that if you're struggling to fall asleep, you can always try hunting sheep. It's not entirely clear where this phrase originated, but some say it's from medieval shepherds in Britain who would count their sheep before turning in for the night. As time went on, the idea became more about thinking of a task that's so repetitive you'll get bored and fall asleep. So if sleep is drawing ever near in this new chapter, having a sheep character could make a lot of sense. Maybe they should have called her Lullabar instead. Oh, come on, it's no worse than Barbar Chops, and you know it. This connection to Fantasy could also imply that we need to keep track of Barbar throughout this chapter, counting them, if you will, either in order to survive or to lead us into a deep sleep. A deep sleep that's a little deeper and a little more permanent according to our next poet.
Hey, it's me, former host Matt Pat, and I interrupt this video with a special announcement. I'm here to tell you I'm retiring. Again! Now, what you thinking? Did this guy already leave? And the answer is yes, but also no. You see, since leaving this channel, I've been over on GT Live having a grand old time being bad at video games and turning 1-minute videos into 90-minute theory fests. And now it's time for me to bow out of that channel as well, giving way to the new host, Ash, who, let's be honest, is way funnier than me anyway.
I feel like Judge Judy is the Ed Sheeran of the Americans of the
Jenny is the Ed Sheeran of
Americans of the
October 26th at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific, we're having a big going away party live, and I want you to be there. Consider it an Eras tour for GT Live, where we're playing games and getting all nostalgic about the last decade of streaming. And most importantly of all, this whole thing is meant to benefit the Make-A-Wish Foundation, an organization that works to make the wildest dreams come true for children fighting the world's most critical illnesses. In fact, in this stream, we're raising money for their most urgent wishes, what are known as the rush wishes, the ones where sadly the children don't have that much time. The reason this meant so much to me is that basically you all made my wishes come true thanks to this career on YouTube. And now, as my final act, I'd like to pay it forward by making other people's wishes come true. Seemed like a really fitting note to go out on. And hey, if you want to start contributing now, as part of the charity event, we're actually having an auction of some old Matt Patton GT Live memorabilia from over the years. With all the proceeds going to help those critically ill children to get their wishes granted. You can actually get your hands on some super rare, one-of-a-kind items, like the morph suit that I wore from that edible underwear episode, the giant Gigachu that's hanging around our office. We have a signed copy of Undertale from yours truly, so you can own one along with the Pope, and even my signature red jacket. Yeah, the one that's been hanging up on set since my retirement video. One of a kind, signed by me. You'll see it live on the stream so you know it's real. Anyway, all those items and more are available right now for you to bid on all throughout this week up until the auction closes during the finale live stream. So if you're interested in contributing to an amazing charity, an amazing cause, or if you're interested in just getting some cool stuff, make sure you check out the link down in the description below, and be sure you're there this Saturday the 26th at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific for one final video. A final video for you. See ya.
In the very first frame of Chapter 2 story so far, we find this code. This is a hexadecimal code, and translating it gives us the message 11 words good luck. To find these 11 words, we have to go frame by frame through the video. Sometimes there's just one jumbled up word hiding out, sometimes there's two, but in total there are 8 codes giving us the full 11 words. Now we just need to figure out what they mean. Because these codes were made up of only letters, my gut told me it was probably a Caesar cipher, and that hunch turned out to be correct. Kinda. It was a Caesar cipher, but not the same one for the entire code. A Caesar cipher works by shifting the phrase backwards or forwards a certain number of letters. However, each of these 8 codes has been shifted by different amounts. You can't just plug them all into one code breaker and call it a day. So after playing around with it for a while, you end up with this assortment of 11 words. Am not, paths, turning, of death, but I, over, afraid, and clear. Obviously, this doesn't make a lot of sense right now. We need to find the correct order. And this is where the puzzle goes from a little bit tedious to actually quite genius. If you take a closer look at the solution, the 8 codes have been shifted by a number between 1 and 8. PFSW is shifted by 1, RCVJU is shifted by 2, and so on. If you then place all of these words in the order of the shift values, you get the final frames. I've gotta tip my hat to you, mod games. At first I thought you were just drawing out the solution to make it seem bigger, but that's a level of thought-through puzzle solving that would make a grown animatronic cry. Combining this with our previous code, we end up with this. On felted feet and bated breath, sleep draws to the over paths turning clear, but I am not afraid of death. Unlike the sleep and nightmares that were caused by the red smoke in Chapter 3, the sleep that is coming for us in Chapter 4 is simply death. But that's not actually what stood out to me. For the first time, we have got the use of a pronoun, I. Up until this point, this could have just been a cryptic poem for the sake of an ARG, but this shows us that's not the case. It's about a specific character. Interestingly, all of the stories so far videos have started with a date, 2005. That's 10 years after the Realm Reborn, the event that killed all the employees in the factory, and around the same time that we came back to try and find anyone who remained. At the end of Chapter 3, Poppy told us that everyone was killed, but we know this isn't the full truth. These Pearsons to still be around, able to run the project later, and the writer of the Orientation Network, PW, is also still alive to write the book. Now, we seem to have another character that has survived the Realm Reborn. However, unlike PW and Leaf, who seem to be free, I don't think this one is, and that's because of the way the poem was written. It follows an A-B-B-A rhyme scheme. The first line rhymes with the fourth line, and the second line rhymes with the third. This evokes a feeling of claustrophobia. death. Weirdly, this line sparked a memory from my time going to a Church of England high school. One of the common passages from the Bible we had to read out in assemblies was Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Just like in the ARG poem, there is a path ahead that is full of death. But the writer of the psalm, King David, isn't afraid of it. He goes on to say that the Lord's rod and staff comfort him, tying it back to the beginning of the psalm when he refers to the Lord as his shepherd. David is not afraid of death because he has something much stronger on his side, God. That might seem like a completely unrelated tangent, but if you think back to chapter 3, it was full of religious implications with characters like Hannah. Chapter 3 confirmed that he used to be the orphan Theodore, but when he got injured trying to help 1006 escape, the prototype took him to Playtime Pro scientists in order to save him. Catnap was the result, and so he worshipped the prototype, saying things like, the prototype will save us, and I live to serve our angel of salvation. Religious inspiration is all over on Playtime, especially when it comes to the prototype and his role as a god or savior to these orphans. He is their God, their good shepherd, the one that has promised to save them from death. Could this mean that this poem isn't about another human employee, but the newest toy to be put front and center, Baba? Are we dealing with another orphan turned toy turned 1006 contest? I don't think so, because Baba isn't just any sheep. She's specifically a black sheep. These days, if you're called a black sheep, it means that you're kind of the odd one out, the outcast. You just don't quite fit in. But originally, the phrase came from literal sheep. Black sheep were considered undesirable by shepherds because their black wool couldn't be dyed, and so it became hard to sell. So when you got a surprise black sheep in your flock of only white sheep, it was considered a bad omen. By the 18th and 19th century, the colour black even started to be associated with the devil himself, the one who was opposing God. And so, with Baba being a black sheep, she would likely be considered undesirable to the shepherd and opposed to the God we've been introduced to, 1006. She's not going to be working with him like in other toys. Instead, this solidifies my hunting earlier that she is going to be helping us. She is going to want to take him down. On chapter 4 scene page, it does say we'll be meeting new characters and allies. And you know what they say, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But if this poem isn't about Baba, then who is it about? Well, you've probably figured out that we still haven't talked about chapter 3's with you, and in it, there's one more code which really is the final piece we need. At 3 minutes and 15 seconds, you'll find the very obvious rule of binary text. However, this code doesn't seem to work when plugged into the binary decoder. There is a second binary code a few frames later that does work, but it only gives us the phrase 25x25.
This is where I've got to give another shout out to Tommy Playtime Discourse. I was scratching my head for a good while with this one, but in less than 2 hours, they have figured out that its original code is actually an image binary, and the 25x25 is an aspect ratio to use to get the final image. Once again, Mob Game just killing it with these puzzles. The only person I could find suggesting the solution was a beautiful Kachino, so massive props for figuring this out, and thank you for helping me with this one. By converting the binary back into an image and setting the aspect ratio to 25 to 25, we end up with a complete site, which you are. Scanning the code gives you a string of letters, which when reversed gives you the final phrase.
That final line is
Fascinating. On its own, it's telling us that this character the poem is about is literally someone we've already met. A new account on the Popper's paper and Discord called Playtime Poem seemed to confirm this idea when users asked them if they were the ones sending the messages, and they responded with the same line for we have already met. These tapes came out before the teaser, so it can't be Baba or any of the Nightmare Critters, and most of the other toys we know are dead, so it would need to be one of the human characters we've been introduced to. We've got a lot of characters unaccounted for, like Eddie Ritterman, Johnny Roth, and Sarah Braver, although only one of them speaks about overcoming death in similar poetic language, and we hear them during the intro of Project Playtime Season 2. Ding ding ding, we have a match! It's the same character that has been guiding us through the story so far videos this entire time. Harley Sawyer. It feels so obvious now. The guy speaking to us in the tapes is also the one the poem is referring to. The one character who speaks in well-structured, very poetic sentences and whose only desire is to overcome his own mortality. And now, according to this poet, it seems to be doing just that. When you take the final phrase and put it with the rest, it reads like this. On felted feet and with bated breath, sweet joys telling me, over paths turning clear, but I am not afraid of death. For we have already met isn't just about us having met this person. It's about the person, Harley, meeting death but still being around to talk about it. He isn't afraid of death because he overcame it. And there's only one way that happens in this franchise. You have to be turned into battle. During Catnap's VHS tape in Chapter 3, we hear Leaf Pierre leading the session instead of Harley. Because, in his own words...
Normally I'd have Dr. Sawyer do this, but he's, out, let's say. He got me until they find his replacement.
The way Leaf says Harley is out feels incredibly uncertain. He's clearly not able to perform his duties anymore, hence the need for a replacement. But it's not as definitive as saying he was fired or no longer with us. And these stories so far videos prove that he definitely isn't dead. Right at the end of the Chapter 3 video, the camera pulls back to reveal a bunch of security camera feeds. As we pull back, Harley's narration audio changes slightly. It's no longer on the VHS tape, it's being spoken from within the security room. This is not a private message. He's been down here physically watching us throughout the journey, which makes Leaf's use of the word out feel even more odd. It's almost as if Leaf doesn't really know what to call Harley, because Harley isn't who he once was. Harley has done what he set out to do in his incineration war. He overcame death and became a living toy. This is what the Big Harley's initiative was always for. He initially framed it as a way to save the company, but in reality, it was to further his own twisted goals of living forever. And unlike the writer of Psalm 23, Harley didn't wait for a god to help him. He used science and became a god himself. He now has power over life and death. He has been helping others to beat death. He's almost become a Jesus-like character. Harley sees himself as a god, a savior, a shepherd. He is here to lead the flock to eternal life. That grace, however, doesn't seem to apply to us. He ends the video by saying, we are being led like lambs to the slaughter, and then like grass. Again, it's more shepherd imagery, but it's not the response of a good shepherd that's going to take care of us. It's a threat. It's a response of a power-hungry madman that's going to lead us to the slaughterhouse. Which leads me to believe that Harley, or the toy he has become, is going to be the real villain of Chapter 4. He's never been afraid of killing people that he sees as a problem. He created Boxyboo and taught him to desire human flesh in order to get rid of people like Rolling Stone, who would expose the entire operation. If we survived this trip to the factory, we would likely be doing the same thing. All of the quote-unquote good things he did would be done, and he can't have them. But you know what? I'm gonna do you one better. It's all well and good knowing the human identity of our opponent, but let's be honest, the thing we all really care about is what toy Harley is going to appear on. At the time of recording, a trailer hasn't been released revealing this new toy. However, I think I've already figured out what it's going to be, and it's all thanks to a little thing called trademarks. A trademark basically shows a person's or business's ownership over a word, phrase, logo, character, that sort of thing. People file for trademarks so that other businesses can't then use those recognizable ideas to help sell their own products. Mob Entertainment has a bunch of trademarks, mainly for the names of their characters, across video games, merchandise, and of course stuffed toys. For example, all the Nightmare printers had their names trademarked back in September. However, when you look at Mob's trademark list, there are two names that haven't been used, both of which were registered in May, long before the Nightmare printers. For them to have been registered so long ago but remain unused, they have to be key characters to this upcoming chapter. Each chapter has introduced us to multiple monsters after all. In Chapter 3, alongside Catnap, we got Mr. Light. In Chapter 2, we had Bunzo and PJ Pugapilla alongside Umami. So with there being two unused names, it's more than likely that's what we're seeing here. One of these guys is going to be the scary but secondary villain, while the other one takes the role of our big bad and Harley's new toy body. The question is, which one? Well, the names are as follows. Yarnaby and Doey the Dough Man. No, I'm not joking, that is the real trademark. Yarnaby is most likely going to be made of yarn. Would be a bit weird to call him that if he wasn't, right? But yarn could be an interesting choice for Harley's new body, mainly for thematic reasons. He has been pulling the strings of Playtime Co since his introduction, starting the whole Bigger Bodies initiative under false pretenses. That being said, Doughy the Dough Man, as silly as that name seems, also makes a surprising amount of sense when it comes to the theme. At first, I thought this was going to be a Pillsbury type of character. Nothing's more frightening than the Pillsbury swole boy. But food feels like a strange choice for a toy. Unless, of course, you're talking about the non-edible kind of dough, Play-Doh. Play-Doh is so versatile, you can make anything with it. You can mold and shape things as you see fit. You can combine different pieces together or tear them apart. Whatever perfect vision you have, Play-Doh can help bring it to life. It fits so perfectly with Harley. He was playing God, molding and shaping the world to his vision, combining humans and toys together to create this perfect reality. Play-Doh would also give mod games a chance to try a different kind of material to show off their animation skills. Something that's detachable, malleable. Harley could literally take whatever form he wanted at any given time, making him an even more frightening, powerful god. So personally, my money's on Doughy, but who do you think it is? I'm actually kind of interested to have you guys vote on this. So on screen right now, you'll find two videos. If you're voting for Team Yarnable, click the video on the left. If you're on Team Doughy, click the video on the right. Regardless, whichever one it turns out to be, I feel pretty confident that Harley is going to be the one to argue it. I guess we'll just have to wait for Chapter 4 to see the final bits. But in the meantime, remember, that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching. When I say that I've read every book from every major indie horror franchise, I really do mean it. Bendy, been there. Hello Neighbor, done that. Snap, forget about it. But with Snap not getting another book until September, I was excited to finally give my dyslexic brain a rest. And of course, there was one franchise that refused to let that happen. One that knew I wouldn't be able to resist the law within its pages. So let's see what Poppy Playtime's Orientation Notebook has to offer, shall we? Hello Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that always reads the manual. You never know what cool stuff you're going to find. Unless, of course, the company behind the book explicitly tells you over and over again. Then it's pretty obvious.
Use the knowledge in these pages, and maybe you can unravel the mystery of Playtime Co.
I'm actually kind of surprised it took this long for Poppy to come out with a book, given that immediately after Chapter 1 they announced they'd already partnered with someone to make a movie, which seems to have fallen through and now we're back again in the new studio. But here we are, 2.5 years later, and we're just getting our first ever Poppy. However, this book isn't like your FNAF YA novels. Instead of unique stories with canonicity that the fanbase can never agree on, this is an in-universe orientation book handed out by Playtime Co to its employees. So it's more like the survival logbook, because we can never truly escape the FNAF connection canon. But there are some key differences. Rather than having a bunch of puzzles and cryptic clues with multiple authors, the Poppy Orientation Notebook does simple. We have one author who is leaving notes throughout the book to give us the inside scoop of some of the details we've been missing from the games. Like why the water treatment facility acts like a puzzle to solve rather than an actual usable water treatment facility, because that was the law that we were so desperate to solve. There's actually a lot of details like that in this book, but that's not why you're here. You're here for the deep. The stuff that will change your perspective on this franchise going forward. And don't worry, this book absolutely delivers on that. Thanks to this book, I feel more confident than ever in not only who our player character is, but also what the deal is with one of this franchise's most confusing characters. See, I told you reading the manual would be fun, and it all begins with that first page. On it, we're introduced to another new character, PW. I tell you, this franchise really does love to name drop random human characters, doesn't it? The book even calls this out, questioning whether a character whose name we've only ever seen on one note is even real. So, at least they're self-aware, I guess? Anyway, PW is our guide throughout this book, and they have been hired for a very specific reason. They are a biologist. And while they may not be immediately sure why they've been hired by a toy factory, we know exactly why they're there, and why they are the perfect person to guide us through the mysteries of this factory. They've been hired to work on the Bigger Bodies initiative, orphans turned into giant biological toys. Now, you might think that a scientist's take on everything could be quite dry. I mean, we've heard their reports in previous chapters on the VHS tapes, but in this case, you could not be more wrong. The sass is absolutely dripping from these pages, and I am here for it. great. They talk about how shady Leaf Pierre is, how Stella Greyblur is weird, and they continuously mock the company for their spin on what are actually just complete failures like the Smiling Critters. Turns out PW might be the most normal and sane character we've ever had in an indie horror game. However, as funny as it is, we've got a theory to craft, and for that, we actually need to skip past all of the sarcastic notes and instead go to the end of the book. In the back, PW has stuck their own personal calendar full of little details about their schedule, and one of those details stood out to me immediately because it's a date that we've seen in this franchise once before. On June 28th, we get a simple note that says, "It's your birthday." Not only is this the same birthday as Markiplier, but it's also the date that we heard thrown out by a Bunzo Bunny cutout during Chapter 2.
Know when your birthday is. What it is?
You just cut him down. I want to speak to the manager of this establishment that Bruce Branson.
At the time, we all just shrugged this off as a little joke to get exactly the reaction we saw from Mark. But then here it is again in this new book. And that's not all. In this book, we also get a breakdown of pretty much every character we've encountered so far, from Playtime's perspective, of course. And Bunzo Bunny's entry has this interesting detail assigned to it. Quote, "This toy is equipped with the ability to remember up to 8 birthdays and deliver greetings on the day itself. Kids love to freak out their family and friends when Bunzo tells them when their birthday is. Bunzo's one and only purpose is to recite birthdays. It makes me think that June 28th wasn't just a random birthday thrown out for memes, but instead was there to freak out the player character by reciting their actual birthday. The same birthday as PW. We are playing as PW. Now, that might seem like a bit of a stretch, but this isn't the only time cutouts have hinted at our player's identity. In Chapter 3, we encountered cutouts of each of the Smiling Critters. To start with, they all seem relatively harmless, introducing their basic character traits, as well as some disturbing screams. But it's Bubba Bubba folks that caught my attention, because it's the first one we encounter, and it's the most direct.
I'm Bubba Bubba and Teddy. I remember you, and elephant always remembers. Want to know what I remember about you?
We're being told the Smiling Critters remember us, and that we did something horrible to them. This isn't anything especially new for our player character. Both Mummy Longlegs and Mr. Light have recognized us and referenced the fact that we work for Playtime Co. For a long time, we suspected that we, in some way, were involved in the experiments. But the Orientation Handbook not only seems to confirm that idea, but also puts PW in the exact same position. In the book, PW notes that they are very careful about not letting employees outside the play care and game station talk to the orphans. So, it's not just any old employee that gets to go and talk to these orphans or have a meeting with Mummy Longlegs. You have to be involved in some way, as a counsellor or a shopkeeper or a scientist, just like PW and just like we saw in the VHS tape for Chapter 3.
This week, Dr. White here has selected our very own Samuel Lee.
We even see a note in PW's calendar on February 1st that says new orphans arrive at Playcare, being told to go and say hello to them. That would allow characters like Mr. Light and Mummy Longlegs to know exactly who PW is, just like they seem to know who the player character is. It doesn't end there though, because the reports in the book specifically call out that PW was involved in the Smiling Critters experiments. There's reports about Bobby Bear hunting Catnap, both included by PW themselves. Notice the tape that's holding them into the book. That's why Bubba Bubbafoot remembers the player and associates them with those horrible, painful screams, because the player is PW, one of the scientists that turned them into monsters. Now, if you've read the book for yourself, you might notice that PW's entries stop after the Hour of Joy, August 8th, 1995, the time where the toys rebelled and took over the factory, killing everyone in sight. That should mean that PW died along with everyone else. However, clearly people escaped. Leaf Pierre, one of the big executives of Playtime Co., gives a speech to his newly formed resource extraction team at the start of Project Playtime, a game that takes place after the Hour of Joy. But that means that PW also survived, because they refer to the incident as well as the extraction team's creation. That incident was the Hour of Joy, and so PW wouldn't be able to write about it if they had died during it, meaning PW isn't necessarily writing this book in a linear fashion, but more importantly, they are still alive, and would be free to return to the factory years later. Oh, and speaking of executives like Luth Pierre, I should probably mention that executive slide that we've referenced a number of times from Chapter 2. The one with the names of all the executives on, except for that last one with a random assortment of letters on the floor. This handbook actually lists out all the executives for the company, but sadly none of them match the name on the floor. Even Jimmy Roth, the guy that came up with the name for Huggy, is revealed to be an exec, and he would make so much more sense to be the final name on the end of that list. And yet the letters still don't match. For a long time, we suspected that this might be used to reveal the player character's name, but with all this evidence from PW and the lack of an exec that fits those letters, I'm just starting to think that this might have been a red herring, or a clue that isn't going to pay off, which sucks. But we've got to work with the more solid evidence we have to hand right now, like the insights that we get into PW's feelings towards the company that would seem to align them very closely with the player. Remember that case report I mentioned about Catnap escaping containment? That was written by PW themselves. In it, we see that they are horrified by the carelessness that led to the deaths of 6 colleagues. They tried to appeal to the company for improvement and leave us with these words, quote, "Remember those things, they were not things, people. I won't see another teammate die." PW cares about their teammates, their co-workers. They don't want to see them die when they don't have to. So, what do you think they would do if they suddenly got a note telling them their colleagues were alive and hidden inside the factory? I am. They would do anything they could to save them. PW knew of the monsters that were still there afterward. They had some sins to atone for. And they do feel guilty over those experiments. In the calendar, we see May 15th booked for surgery, but the day after, they book a full day in one of the porter lounges, which the orientation notebook tells us are for, quote, mental health breaks. And PW remarks that they use these things pretty regularly. They didn't like what they were doing and needed a whole day to recover from the horrors they were part of. So, given the chance to save some colleagues to right at least some of their wrongs, they didn't hesitate. They went straight for playtime cut. I shouldn't care. Why is knowing who we play as actually important to the lore of this game? Besides, being a fun piece of trivia that we can go, I solved the lore. Well, for that, we have to stop looking at our guide throughout the book and instead look at our guide throughout the factory, Poppy. Poppy has been helping us throughout this latest chapter, and she's made it very clear that she wants the prototype, the big fan of the series, dead.
Prototype has to die. This. For everything.
That is something I think we could all get behind. And at the very end of the chapter, we end up going down an elevator alongside her after she reveals the truth about our fellow employees. Naturally, because of these actions, we as an audience have started to associate the idea of prototype bad, Poppy good. However, there is something we need to remember. It's been a long time since Chapter 1 first released, 2.5 years in fact, and given we've only had 2 chapters since then, it can be easy to forget certain details along the way. One of those details comes from that very first chapter. Poppy is not trusted. I know, I just did a Poppy theory about not trusting a friendly character, but honestly, hear me out. Surrounding her room alongside the giant flower and hanging toys are messages to us, warning us to turn around. Go back. We see the same messages inside the tunnel during the Huggy chase sequence, but there are a few that I initially didn't see, mainly because I was trying not to die. But thankfully, Reddit user 123 F this S was kind enough to post the actual texture files, and in it we find some crucial evidence. Stay away from her. Don't let her out. Leave her to die. She can't be trusted. If that's not an open and shut case, I don't know what is. Yeah, I know, that one's bad. But if you think about it, ever since that moment, she has continued to be untrustworthy. In Chapter 2, she tells us she's going to help us escape.
There's a train station. Needs a code.
Only to change the tracks at the last minute so we can help her with our own plans.
Too perfect to lose. I'm sorry. I can't let you leave.
In Chapter 3, she lies to our faces once again. When we first meet her, she tells us,
Let me help you kill him. Let me help you save everyone.
but when we get to the end of the chapter, she tells us something different.
Came back because of your coworkers. I know what happened. What? This is your answer.
Poppy knew the truth about what happened, but didn't admit it right at the start, because if she did, we likely wouldn't have helped her. By the time you get to the end, you've forgotten what she said all those hours ago. Oh, Poppy's being honest with us. She must be trustworthy. But no, she's just manipulating us once again. But why is she doing it? Well, We believe that Poppy was created using the adopted daughter of Elliot Ludwig, the founder of Playtime Co. Given all the adoption initiatives around the facility and that Elliot was considered a family man at heart, it would make sense that he would have adopted a daughter of his own. But then there was a tragic death in the family in the 1960s, and it wasn't his wife because she was out of the picture, divorcing him in the 1930s, which left only his daughter to be the one brought back to life as a Poppy doll. Now, thanks to the orientation notebook, it seems like we got a little track. PW talks about how toys at the factory were being created biologically for a long time, even before the Bigger Bodies initiative. And if you did maintenance on Poppy dolls, you'd great because they all used biological parts, like we saw in that original VHS tape. And they also implied that there was one Poppy that was special, one that was locked inside a glass case and what looked like an ordinary family home. A family home that had a direct line to Elliot's office, so he could, quote, visit her. In another part of the book, it once again brings up Elliot's divorce, how it happened because he devoted all of his time to his work, and so, quote, it always felt like he wanted to have a family within the factory, so his whole life Elliot wouldn't want to lose his daughter. By using the technology they'd already been using to make Poppy dolls, he was able to save her and turn her into the special Poppy doll we know today. He put her inside a glass case to keep her safe and would visit her inside their family home. Which means, just like all the orphans that would come after her, she went through all that pain and suffering to be turned into a toy. Sure, she was dead when the process started, but just like we saw with the rats in the Poppy gel, they all have to be resuscitated at some point. And who could imagine the kind of pain being having your eyes, nervous system, digestive tract all shoved into a plain doll-like figure? It would be a hugely traumatic ordeal, and so I'm not sure she'd be a fan of anyone doing this to anyone else, especially orphans, which sounds an awful lot like another character we know. Amongst all those hallway messages about not trusting Poppy in Chapter 1, there's one message I've not mentioned. She's on their side. When we receive those warnings, there is only one side that isn't our own going on. The side of another creature who was forced to become a monster. The side of the one who was angered by the treatment of the orphans. The side of the prototype 1006. Both Poppy and the prototype have been forced to suffer through this horrific conversion process. Both of them know the pain that goes with it, and neither wants to see it happen again. They are in cahoots, and the clues have been right in front of us the whole time. We established last time that Ollie, the kid that talks to us in that clip, isn't actually a kid, but the prototype mimicking the voice of a child. In that video, I pointed out that any child that was around during the Hour of Joy wouldn't still be a child by this point in the timeline, because 10 years have passed since that fateful day. Poppy knew about the Hour of Joy. She tells us about it at the end of the chapter, so she'd have no reason to believe that Ollie was a real child in the facility, unless she's trying to convince us that he is. All that talk about hating the prototype and wanting to kill him, it's all just an act to get us to trust Poppy and her new friend, to follow their instructions as we explore the facility so that they could enact their revenge. But what does that have to do with our playing character? If they wanted revenge, why not invite East Pierre? He's still around and kicking and definitely wasn't a good guy. Instead, we were the one who received the note at the start of the release. Why? Well, it comes back to what I was saying at the start of this episode. We aren't just anyone. We are PW, a biologist who worked on the experiments of Playtime, and that is what the prototype needs. We feel pretty confident at this point that 1006 is making a new body for himself down in the basement. We saw the shrine in Chapter 3 that mimicked this idea, and of course there's Mummy's iconic line. In the orientation notebook, we learned that not every experiment was completely successful. Bobby Bearhug seems to be missing the ability to hear, speak, and stand stably. In Chapter 3, Leaf Pierre comments about how Catnap's voice isn't working properly.
Is his voice thing still broken?
And while Huggy is obedient, he too is unable to speak. Even 1006 isn't perfect. He's copying other voices to form sentences. Each experiment has flaws, except she is perfect. She can see, speak, hear, move. She is the blueprint. So I wonder whether 1006's goal here isn't just to create a bigger body, but to create the perfect body, combining all of the elements that worked from each of the toys. And then, once he's perfect, he can truly enact his and Poppy's revenge. Or maybe it's like my host suggested in their reaction to my first theory. Instead of 1006 trying to create the perfect toy body, they're trying to create a new organic body out of all the biological parts from within each of the toys in order to go back to living a normal life. Maybe Poppy will get a new body too. However, whichever option is correct, the one thing I never stopped to consider until now was whether 1006 would be physically able to make themselves a new body. We know they're particularly good with technology, able to turn an alarm clock into a laser pointer to disable the security cameras. But as we've mentioned multiple times, the toys he's adding to himself aren't mechanical, they're biological. Playtime Co. had to hire biologists to make their experiments work, not just any old toy makers. So if 1006 was trying to make themselves a new body using the parts of these deceased toys, he'd likely need the help of someone with those specific skills. Someone like us. Someone who worked on these experiments and knew how they ticked in order that they could create the perfect bodies. Given this game has seen success going in a darker direction, and the area we enter at the end of Chapter 3 being known in the game files as the prison, I wouldn't be surprised if throughout Chapter 4 we are going to see more characters like Dogdeck, missing limbs, stuffed into cages, and surrounded by the pure carnage of 1006's attempts to create this perfect body, only for him to realize that he can't do it alone. But now, his good and faithful servant Poppy has led us right to him. And despite going into this new chapter knowing that we can't trust anyone, there's nothing we're going to be able to do to stop it. Ollie and Poppy have us right where they want us, and all we can do is wait and see what last-minute out the developers are going to give us to escape their horrible schemes. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching. And if you want to learn more about the evil prototype, check out this video where I figure out their dreams theorists.
First day here at Teaking. Join our community. Diligence and care for others will help make people right. Just sit home.
Hello Internet, welcome to Game Theory, the show that might be late to the Poppy Party, but hey, so are mob games, so fair is fair. Now, I'm sure you're probably wondering why Matt Pat suddenly sounds British, so let me introduce myself. I'm Tom, I'm from England, allergic to apples, I want to be Dorco at axe throwing. Oh! And this is the very first episode of Game Theory. That being said, this is far from the first Game Theory I've actually done the math until like this episode, but it turns out I put it around 40 years over the last few years where I've been able to puppets to the world. These are both the other sides of that episode, like Tommy Nichols and Brooke and Michael Myers and Tom Christian's fun. And of course, I'm going to be fair share of horrible franchise like that, cooking companions, and the topic for today's episode of Playtime. In fact, I feel like the puppets are there was a first video back in 2021. Yeah, much like that, it's its very beginning. And I need to their allies in every game, every spin, every trailer trying their best to solve what the heck is going on in this abandoned factory. Now, over 2.5 years later, we finally wanted to dive into Chapter 3. This was a massive step up. As with enemy encounters and much longer playtime, and the scare factor was turned up to 11. The good story is still trying to have high school dinner. But that is a little way into the story, so let's start from the beginning. We're brought down a tragedy by the split out of this chapter. Obviously, we find our way down to a giant underground orbit with mysterious and horrifying locations. Again, the chapter 2 was like, as we said, we're introduced to a new character, Ollie, a young boy that speaks to us over a telephone and is working alongside Poppy in case he could take down the prototype.
I know you're probably mad at Poppy for not letting you escape, but she needs you. We need you. You are our mission. Together, you'll save a lot of people. By the way, my name is Ollie. Nice to meet you.
Together, we solve some puzzles, have a few hallucinations, and encounter the terrifying Mr. Light and their good friend Poppy. Finally, after all that, we come face to face with Catnap. And hey, a final showdown that isn't a chase sequence. You mob games really are growing up. After electrocuting Catnap, Prototype lowers his hand from the news. Catnap kneels in Production Club is gone, and 1006 stands in your face. If you're making balance and playing players like that, the gas and use the elevator to escape even lower into the facility. Seriously, how deep does this have to even go? Eventually, it's going to be able to just climb out and melt the Earth's core. But as we descend into the final scene, this is the fighting. When the yells are the wall, the light darkness gets all up to the top. This is very dramatic. Definitely make the way to a fire, but I don't think just use the water. They also build it to a business. That's right, this slider, bursting at the seams, raw. We've got more VHS tapes, notes, death messages, all that show us the pure right part. Yes, what the hour of point was and what happened. But while the chapter proves some of those theories right, they also prove other theories in the past. Namely, what is the true identity? Prototype. For a long time, we believed the CEO of Playtime Co. and the play, whether the reveals in this chapter either from the subject and it all comes down to the CEO characters. How will a guy who played their Ollie and nothing and the character here about the step into my shiny little baby car friends. It's time for us to find the truth hidden inside this horrifying factory. I think it's what I really want. And you'll be in a world of pure annihilation. So to kick things off, why do I think Elliot Ludwig is confirmed? Well, in this chapter, there's a great big program in playing by the
escape. The late Elliot Ludwig algorithm just key bones to the skeletal structure that were reported missing to the body.
The child's body was found in its home with some bones and organs. The pieces that we know are the intention of breaking these big bones thanks to some paper discovered during the time. See, this right
I played a Roblox horror game that was an almost identical copy of like my mom, and I was extremely sad on it. That video was how my game was copied mission, but how Roblox was very different from what I thought it was. And I ended that video saying, should we make a game in Roblox? And after wondering, I said, yes, I'll make a Roblox. But I'm not going to make a secret Roblox. Don't bother me with this down there. I have that. All because I'm going to make the most bone-chilling, hard-out Roblox game that ever existed. Well, I'm really proud of it. After the initial hurdle of watching 8 tons of videos and trying to understand how Roblox had decided to do it, much like my first video, also about cleaning. You see, I moved to a new house a couple of years ago, and when you